We stayed up all night. We found 2 articles in the Harvard Law Review that talk about this case. They're saying this law is unconstitutional. It should never have been passed, but nobody's been charged with it. So there's nobody to have standing to challenge it in court.
Right.
But you have to challenge it post-conviction, right? Yeah. So
no thanks.
So at 7:00 that morning, I emailed the attorneys and I said, I'm turning it down. I want to go to trial. And Plato, one of the other attorneys emails me back and says, put on a pot of coffee. We're coming to the house. So they arrive at the house. Plato was the first one in. Plato was a mean old man. And he says to me, he gets right in my face. He goes, you stupid son of a bitch, take the fucking deal. I said, you're the one who told me to go to trial. You're the one who said they have a shit case. He goes, I said that just to keep your morale up. So there were 3 lead attorneys. The second one, Bob Trout, one of the loveliest men you'll meet. Beautiful suits, Southern gentleman. He pulls me aside and he says, if you were my own brother, I would ask you, I would beg you to take the deal. And then Mark McDougall, he was the head of white-collar defense at Aiken, Gump and Strauss, the biggest law firm in the world. He says to me, and he's the guy that I liked and respected the most. He says to me angrily, you know what your problem is? Your problem is you think this is about justice, and it's not about justice. It's about mitigating damage. Take the deal. So I said, Mark, if I don't take the deal and I'm convicted, what am I realistically looking at here? He says 12 to 18 years. Take the fucking deal. So they called DOJ and they said 30 months, he does 23. And they said, all right. And so instead of 45 years, I got 23 months. And Mark said one other thing. He said, this is the right thing to do. He goes, this could be a blip in your life, or it could be the defining event of your life.
Oh, yeah.
Make it the blip.
Yeah, you get 20 years and you can tell everybody in prison for 20 years, oh, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah, exactly. How'd that work out for you?
Was that like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's lots of things that change. But I mean, was that binding on the judge, or was it all
that's a great question.
A low-end recommendation?
That's a great question. So the recommendation...
Because I don't like this judge.
No, at all. Yeah. So they dropped all 3 of the espionage charges. I hadn't committed espionage. They dropped the false statements charge. I didn't make any false statement.
Right.
So the IIPA, the Intelligence Identities Protection Act, the guideline was like just under 5 years. It was like 4 years and 4 months or something like that. And every national security reporter in America is in the courtroom on the day of my sentencing. So my attorneys negotiated something called an 11C1C plea. An 11C1C plea is an agreement on time between the prosecution and the defense. The agreement is written in stone. So the judge only has the choice of accepting the plea or rejecting the plea, and you go to trial and start from scratch. And the trial's going to go for another year then.
Yeah.
So she says, I have been a judge since 1986. And this is the first time I have ever seen an 11C1C plea. She goes, I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. She goes, Mr. Kiriakou, if I could, I would give you 10 years. Well, the truth is, she could. All she had to do was reject the plea.
Yeah.
But she was performing for the cameras.
Yeah, exactly.
So she says, I hereby find you guilty and I sentence you to 30 months in prison, 23 months to be served at the, Bureau of Prisons, whatever of their choice. So my lawyers say, Your Honor, we ask that you send Mr. Kiriakou, recommend the minimum security work camp at Loretto. And she says, any objection? And DOJ is like, that we don't object.
Yeah.
So I have to report February 27th of 2013. I go up there, I go to the camp, I knock on the door, tailed by a documentary film crew and 4 of my lawyers and my cousin and his son. And they said, oh, you have to go across the street to the prison. They process you. They bring you back over here. So I go over to the prison. I say, I'm John Kiriakou. I'm here to turn myself in. They put me through the X-ray, and then they start leading me around to the back of the actual prison. I said, no, I'm supposed to be at the camp across the street. And the guy goes, ha, not according to my paperwork, you're not.
All right.
I was like, shit. Don't do anything. Don't say anything. You'll end up in solitary. I didn't say a word.
Yeah. Yeah, the judge can recommend whatever, but the Bureau of Prisons...
they tell you, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, they're the ones running the Bureau of Prisons.
And as it turned out, we learned through the Freedom of Information Act that the CIA was livid that they had agreed on this deal. They wanted me to die in there.
Mm.
They were livid. 23 months? It's like a joke. So...
I bet it didn't feel like a joke to you.
It didn't. In fact...
23 months seems like a lifetime at that time. To have to go into a prison that you feel like you don't deserve to be there.
I was walking around the basketball court. There was so much snow that they closed the yard. We could just walk around the basketball court. I was walking around with the number 3 in the Bonanno family. We lived across the hall from each other, and we became good friends. And he said, how much time do you have anyway? I said, 23 months. Feels like 23 years. And he says, let me give you some advice. When somebody asks you how much time you have, you tell them 5 years. Because if somebody hears that you have a sentence that's so light, like 23 months, they're going to kick your ass.
Yeah, they get upset.
Yeah.
They get jealous. I mean, you really see that in prison because people are, they're serving these, Buck Rogers, dates and they're upset and they get, it's childish, but, you're not dealing with the reality. The best people.
No, that was good advice.
So what did you? So you didn't go to the camp. You went to what? Did you go to a low?
I went to a low.
Okay.
It took me about 4 days to get access to a phone, and I called Mark McDougall, the attorney that I liked, and I mean I liked all of them, but I liked Mark the most. We connected the best, and I said, Mark, hey, they put me in the actual prison, like with the mafia dons and the files. What do I do? And he goes, oh my God, well we could file an appeal, but it'll be 2 years before we get a date. You'll be home by then. He said, buddy, I'm sorry. You're going to have to tough it out. And then I thought, you know what? I'm trained for this. I've lived in way worse places than Loretto, Pennsylvania.
Right.
I'm going to run this place by the time I'm done. And I just set out to be the biggest asshole I could possibly be.
To what? The Bureau of Prisons?
Yeah.
Or just the inmates? I was going to say, like...
The inmates, I wrote this book that won 2 literary awards. I wrote it in longhand in prison called Doing Time Like a Spy, How the CIA Taught Me to Survive and Thrive in Prison.
Nice.
And I won the Penn First Amendment Award with the Penn Faulkner, the Pulitzer, and the Edgar Allan Poe. It's one of the big 4, right?
Okay.
And I won the Forward Review's Memoir of the Year. So... I take these 20 life lessons that I learned at the CIA, and I show how I applied them in prison. Well, some of them were like a joke. Admit nothing, deny everything, make counter accusations. And I'll give you an example. The whites didn't control any of the TVs. The Hispanics had half the TVs, and the blacks had half the TVs. So you watch whatever Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. I'm going to read a book instead of watch that. But anyway, these 2 guys got into a scrap over what to watch one day. Well, I'm watching the Steelers game, right? So these guys start duking it out. It's like a 1.5 feet away from me. Well, I'm busy. I'm watching the game. This fight isn't about me. Well, of course, as soon as the fight breaks out, everybody just bolts and they run back to their cells. Well, I'm watching the game. Mm-hmm. So I'm just sitting there while these dudes are scrapping it out. Next thing I know, the red light comes on, and then Kiriakou, lieutenant's office, immediately.
Right. This is why everybody bolts, by the way, Colby, because the CO, sometimes the COs will come in and they'll grab anybody around there, and they end up going to the shoe.
Yeah.
Too. But I had nothing to do with it. Yeah, but you were there, and we'll throw you in the shoe, keep you there for a week or 2. You'll tell us what happened because I didn't do anything. I was there. This guy punched so-and-so, and I didn't do anything. I want to go back to my cell. But that's why everybody immediately takes off. They don't gather around and
No way.
Yeah, like in the movies, no,
Everybody
they bolt.
makes a circle around the guys fighting.
That doesn't
never
happen.
happens.
It's like, oh fuck,
never.
I'm done. I got to go back to my cell.
So I'm just sitting there watching the game. So I get on the lieutenant's office, and they're like, "Why don't you tell us about the fight?" I go, "What fight?" The fight in Central 1. I go, "There was a fight?" I don't know. I was watching the Steelers game. "Oh, you're going to be smart guy now." I go, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I didn't see any fight. We saw you on the cameras sitting there in the middle of the fight."
Then what do you need to talk to me about? You saw it on the cameras.
I said, "And your question is, what was the fight about?" I go, "What, you want me to do your job for you now too?" "Kiriakou, you're this close to the shoe. Tell us about the fight." I go, "You know what? Maybe it was you that was fighting, huh? Maybe it was you that was on the cameras. How the fuck am I supposed to know? I didn't see anything on the cameras. Maybe you're the one that started up the fight." He goes, "Get the fuck out of my office." And I go, "Exactly. Fucking asshole." And I went back and they're like, "Oh my God, you survived?" I said, "These guys are so stupid. They don't even know what to say back to you when you tell them that you can't believe what your lying eyes have seen." You know? There was another one. I said in the book, always let others do your dirty work. Okay? Simple.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a serial killer in my pod. We called him Truck. He had been a long-distance truck driver. These are the days before DNA testing. He would drive all the way across the country in an 18-wheeler, pick up prostitutes at roadside.
Chicken, what do they call them? Chicken heads. And yeah, pick up one and nobody misses her.
No. And he would kill them. He would strangle them and throw them out of the side of the truck. So he got 40 years. And for whatever reason, I'll never understand why this guy constantly sought my approval. "Hey, John, the Steelers are on at 1 o'clock. I saved you a seat." "Thanks, Truck." "Hey, John, I know you listen to classic rock. There's a new station at 1600 AM. "Okay, thanks, Truck." So I'm sitting there one day. Well, there's this other guy that I didn't like at all. We had an empty bed in our cell, and he wanted to move in. Well, no pedophiles, no rats. Okay, so he says, "I want to move into your cell. I heard it's a good cell." I said, "What's your crime?" "Murder for hire." I said, "I don't think I like that very much more than being a pedophile or a rat." I said, "What are the circumstances?" He goes, "I have a gambling problem and I owed the mob $100,000 and I couldn't pay it. So I took out a life insurance policy on my business partner and I hired a hitman to kill him. And I got caught." And I go, "And then what? Like, how are you not in a maximum?" "Well, I got 20. I said, "How'd you get 20? "Well," I said, "you ratted out the hitman."
Cooperated against the hitman,
Yeah.
of course.
Which he did. And I said, "Nope, you can't move in here. No pedophiles, no rats." So I'm sitting watching the Steelers with Truck.
Uh-huh.
And this guy had this oddly elongated head, the murder for hire guy.
Okay.
We called him Cat in the Hat because that's what his head looked like. So it was like a birth defect, right? There are a lot of fucked up people in prisons, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there with Truck watching the game, and this guy, Cat in the Hat, he's like 2 feet away from me. He's right here at the email terminal. He doesn't see that I'm sitting 2 feet behind him. And he says, "Hey, did you hear? Kiriakou got called to the lieutenant's office today." He goes, "That guy's a fucking rat. He went down there to rat us out." The truth is that Jake Tapper had driven up from CNN to the prison to interview me that day, and I had to go down and sign the waiver to do the interview.
Okay.
So I'm just sitting there, and Truck says, "Did you hear that guy? He just called you a rat." I saw my opportunity. And I go, "An hour ago, I heard him call you a..." And without saying a single word, Truck got up and beat him almost to death. They had to land a helicopter in the yard to life flight this asshole to Pittsburgh to save his life. Truck got 5 more years added onto his sentence. So I was done with him.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Done with him. And then 6 weeks later, Cat in the Hat gets out of the hospital, comes back. Everybody had told him what I had done.
Right.
So he comes up to me. He's got his head down. He goes, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry that I called you a rat and I'll never do it again. And I go, hey, look at me. I said, if I ever hear my name cross your lips ever again, you're dead and you'll never see it coming. He's, oh, okay. I'm sorry. I became like legendary. And the mob guys are like, shit, you are a psychopath. I said, no, that's the issue. You're a psychopath. That's why I get you guys to do my dirty work for me.
So you wrote this book in prison. You have all the rules.
Yep.
You didn't publish it in prison?
No.
Okay.
I had a little bit of a problem because the cops would shake me down, and if I had, pages written, they would tear them up.
Really?
Yeah. So what I ended up doing was every day I would write, and again, it's longhand. It's friggin' hard to write 120,000 words in longhand, right?
Yeah.
So every day I'd write, and then I would put it in an envelope, I would mark it legal mail, and I'd send it to my lawyers.
Okay.
And they just held them for me. And so when I got out, I hired some college student just to type the whole thing, and then I started the edit. Now, there were whole chapters that I wrote twice just because I forgot I had written it, right? It took me a year and a half to write it longhand. I started off with a story. There was this guy. There was this friggin' Italian Ponzi scheme guy, degenerate gambler, not connected. So he's like, he owes every bookie in the prison money, and he's borrowing from this guy to pay that guy just so he doesn't get his legs broken. And the whole thing's going to collapse. But at the same time, he had been in People magazine a couple times because he was dating an A-list Oscar-winning star. She broke up with him when he was arrested for this Ponzi scheme. Yeah. And he's always talking about his yacht in the Mediterranean and his villa in outside of Rome, and everybody's going to be invited to the villa, and we're going to take a cruise around here. Oh, can I borrow $10? Can I have a couple of Macs? So I said to one of the Italians, the one who became my best friend and is still like a brother to me, I said, I'm going to fuck this guy up. I said, I cannot listen to these stories anymore.
You're a real tough guy in the low.
In the low, yeah.
In the low, right.
Because I knew I could get away with it. So he goes, are you crazy? He goes, they're going to send you the shoe for months, and then they're going to put you in a medium. Yeah. And then what are you going to do? I said, I would never be so crude as to physically fuck him up.
Right. I'm smarter than that.
Give me some credit.
Right.
So one of the guys in my cell, he was a Mexican guy who worked in the laundry. And I said, Jose, can you get me a laundry bag? And he said, sure. And I gave him a Mac, and he stole a laundry bag, gave me the laundry bag. And then there was another guy, Jorge. I said, Jorge, are you going home soon? He goes, yeah, I got my merry-go-round. You remember the merry-go-round?
Yeah. You get everybody to sign off just before you leave. Yeah,
it's not for any reason other than to keep you occupied that last day so you don't settle scores. So I said, can I borrow your merry-go-round? So he gives it to me. I make a photocopy. I white out his name and his number, and I type in the Italian guy's name and number. And I wait till 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon. I put the laundry bag and the merry-go-round on his bed. So he comes in. He goes, hey, guys. We're like, hey, man, how you doing? Good. How are you? Yeah, we're good. He goes over to his bed. He goes, I go, what? He goes, I'm going home. I said, what are you talking about? He says, it's the merry-go-round. I won my appeal. I go, what? Nobody wins their appeal. He holds up the laundry bag and the merry-go-round. He says, I won. I'm going home. I have to call my lawyer. He runs to the phones. Well, even fancy New York lawyers go home by 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon. He goes to the unit manager. He's long gone. The counselor left at like 2 o'clock and had somebody else clock him out. So there's nobody around. So my Italian buddy says, hey, let us have a dinner for you. We got to have a dinner tomorrow night, Sunday night even better, the night before you leave.
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. When you're not resting well, everything else feels harder. Your focus, your mood, even your recovery. GhostBed is here to help you fix that. They've spent decades perfecting how to build a bed that's comfortable, durable, and designed to actually help you rest. Every GhostBed mattress features premier materials, proven cooling technology, and their exclusive ProCore layer, a targeted support system that reinforces the center of the mattress where the body is heaviest. It helps keep your spine aligned and your back supported, so you can wake up ready for anything 2026 throws at you. Each mattress comes with a 101 night sleep trial and a 20 to 25 year warranty, so you can try it risk-free, knowing it's built to last. Shipping is fast and free. Most orders arrive in 2 to 5 days. GhostBed has great prices to begin with, up to 50% off comparable brands. And Inside True Crime listeners can get an extra 10% off site-wide for a limited time. Just go to ghostbed.com/Cox and use promo code Cox at checkout. That's ghostbed.com/Cox, promo code Cox. Upgrade your sleep with GhostBed, the makers of the coolest bed in the world. Some exclusions apply. See site for details.
He's like, okay. On Saturday, he gave all of his shit away.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's what happens. Is they give her their shoes, they give anything, because they don't need any of this stuff. They don't need their radio, they don't need their MP3, they don't need nothing.
I took nothing home with me. Sunday night with this big bash, big party. The Italians, the way they ate, it was just like in Goodfellas. It was.
I've talked about this.
I gained 35 pounds in 23 months.
Oh my God.
They were very, very good to me.
Yeah.
So Monday morning, we all walk him down to R&D, receiving and discharge. The rest of the story I got from the cop in R&D. So he goes in there, and the cop says, "Who are you?" And he says his name.
Did he go get everything signed off on?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He went to every office.
So he's showing up. That's like an escape. That looks like an escape.
The cop says, "Turn around, you're under arrest."
Fucking
He
serious?
says, "For what?" "Attempted escape."
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. It was an escape attempt. Why, he didn't know it.
Yeah.
He bursts into tears. They cuff him. They take him to the SHU. And then they ended up sending him to Elkins. And he just did the rest of his.
That's ingenious.
So it was the actual boss of the Gambinos came up to me and he goes, "That was some sick shit." And I said, "I thought that guy would never shut his fucking mouth." And the Gambino guy says, "I'm not saying you didn't do us a favor. I'm just saying that was some sick shit."
You know what? You know the sovereign citizens?
Oh boy, do I.
So there was a sovereign citizen that I was locked up with that he had, and I don't even know how he did that. You know, they incorporate their name, they do the whole thing. Somehow or another, he had filed something and he got a federal judge to say that the Bureau of Prisons did not have jurisdiction over, and then he had his incorporated name. Now, what the federal judge probably thought he was saying was like over this corporation.
Right.
And so he gets this letter, but it's still his name. It's all in caps and, whatever. And he gets.
They're always big on the all caps.
Yeah. So he gets the piece of paper. It says this is a federal, this is a federal judge has written this letter. And so he's got this letter, packs up all of his bags.
Oh my God.
He was at the low. I met him in the medium. He told us the story. He goes to the low, right up to the gate, not to R&D. He brings his stuff up to the gate. The front. I don't know every prison, but they usually have a big gate.
Oh yeah. But it's out of bounds. You're not supposed to be up there.
Yeah, exactly. There's a red line around it.
Oh yeah.
He walks right up.
Wow.
And so like the lieutenant or somebody comes up and goes, "Hey man, what are you doing?" He's got his stuff in a couple of laundry bags. He's like, I need to be released. You need to release me. This judge just declared that you don't have any jurisdiction over me. I'm ready to go. And and they're delusional.
Sure.
And so he looks at me, he grabs the letter and reads it. He goes, okay. He holds that. He said, "Hold on." I think he calls the warden, whoever, assistant warden, whoever's in that, in the low at the time. They come out, walk over, takes a paper and reads it. And she goes, okay. Are you a sovereign citizen? And he goes, yes, I am. She goes, okay. All right. Got it. Folds it up and says, handcuff him. And cuffs him and brings him straight to the shoe where he spends 6 months in the shoe. And then they move him to the medium. And he had to check in every hour. He had to find a guard. So if you have escape charges, he had to go find a guard every hour and say, hey, and show him his ID. And then they would call him in to say, yeah, this went on for the whole I was in the medium for 3 years. But for the last year and a half, 2 years, he was every single hour he would check in. And he got a charge, and I was in there with a couple sovereign citizens that got charged with, they had made a new law where because the sovereign citizens they'll file like judgments and shit against judges and
liens.
Yeah.
And they'll try to take your house.
So you're like a judge and you've got this sovereign citizen who's locked up trying to fucking put a lien against your house and foreclose on your house.
Yeah.
Anyway,
they do.
So they found out there's a law, they'd charge them. So they had a new law that they were so some of these sovereign citizens, they'd scoop up, re-indict them, bring them back to court, and they'd come back with 3 more years. And they're like, I can't believe it. It's like, what are you doing? Like, you're here on tax evasion. You had 3 years. You just got yourself you were walking out the door in like a year. You just got another 3 years.
But that's it. They can't control themselves.
Right. They
really believe this crazy stuff.
I used to always tell them too. I said, look, I no, you don't understand. The IRS code was never ratified by the. I get it.
The Ohio Indian Treaty of 1812. I'm like, please, I can't.
And I used to always tell them, listen, let's say you are 100% right. These people have the manpower, the guns, and the prisons, and they say you're going to stay here, and you can spend the next 5 years of your sentence telling everybody how you shouldn't be in prison. But when you get out, you better pay your fucking taxes, bro.
That's right.
Like, stop thinking. It's kind of like what your lawyer said, which I absolutely agree, is that you're thinking this is about justice.
It's not.
Like in whether it's whether it's espionage or you're a drug dealer, like I get it. Look, I love Law and Order.
Sure.
And I love when McCoy finds out.
I love that show.
McCoy finds out that they sentenced the wrong man. Yeah. And they call the judge and we're gonna rush over there and we're gonna get him out tonight. And they do, but
it's not real life.
Bro. It's not what they do.
It's not real life.
What they do is they go, it's not his DNA. And they go, well, he must have had a partner. It must be his partner's DNA. He's guilty. What are you talking about, bro? You just spent the whole trial saying it was his semen. Mm-hmm. You said there was nobody but him. You said it was his footprint, his semen, his fingerprints. There was only him. And now the semen, you got the DNA and it doesn't match. And now you're just saying, well, that was his partner. You just went to trial saying he didn't have a partner. Like, it doesn't stop. It's just about winning. Yeah. It's just about winning.
That mitigating damage thing that he said, that was one of the most important and impactful things that anybody has ever said to me in my life. And I've repeated it. He actually teaches now. He's semi-retired. He teaches at Georgetown Law School. And I speak to his classes. And I tell that story.
When you were locked up, did you have a plan for getting out? Like, were you thinking to yourself, when I get out, I'm going to, write books for the rest. Like, what is your plan for the rest of your life? Like, I mean,
well, so many of us think that when we finish our sentences, we can just step back into our lives again, and that's just not true. Yeah, it's not possible.
Right,
you're not the same person.
Did you know that though?
No,
because
a lot of guys.
Oh, okay, because I knew it. Like I knew because
you were more self-aware.
Right, I knew that. I had a lot more time to think.
Right.
I knew that when you looked on the internet, that it was devastating.
Yeah.
And so I was aware, and I would talk to these the other con men who were locked up, and they were always like, and I know you don't know my story, but like one of many things I've done was one time I don't judge me.
No judgment.
One time I stole a guy's identity. And then I had his name legally changed because, and I had a driver's license, passport, everything in his name, but I had it legally changed. But so people knew, like, Cox had somebody's name changed. So a lot of the con men would come to me and be like,
how do you do this?
How did you have his name? How hard was it? I was like, it's $1,500 to a lawyer. It was nothing. It was a joke. I had had like 2 people say that they'd known me as this person for 2 years. I said, both of the people that signed those papers, I said, knew me for 2 months. I told them, I'm changing I had a reasonable reason to change the guy's name. I was living as Michael Eckert, and I wanted to change my last name to Michael Johnson. And I happened to had met a couple of people. I'd known them a month or two, and they knew me as Michael Eckert. I wasn't, of course. And I explained to them that I wanted to change my name because the guy that raised me was named Johnson. I don't even know this Eckert. I don't know my real dad, but I want to change it. And it's important for him and my mom. And I was wondering, would you mind signing this affidavit saying you've known me, says you've known me for 2 years? And they're like, yeah, no problem. They sign it and get it notarized, whatever. We give it to the lawyer. I give him $1,500. And I think 20 days later, he calls me up and says, hey, here's your paperwork. You can go to the DMV, get your name changed. But I'd done that. So these guys would come to me and how hard is it? And they'd tell me, because then there's like 30 articles on me or this or that. And like they ran a Ponzi scheme. They ran a pump and dump, whatever. And then there's something called not Ancestry. It's called Reputation .com.
Oh yeah, Reputation.com. Yeah,
that will bury all the articles.
Will. Yes.
And they were like, I'm going to go to this and I'm that. And I used to always look at them and think, you sound like you're working on your next indictment.
Yeah, seriously.
Like you're just, they're like, yeah, but I don't want this following me around. And I was like the only person in prisons. They were like, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm leaning into it.
Oh, I wear mine on my sleeve.
Absolutely.
I've made a living from it.
That was my thing. I was like, I'm going to lean into this and I'm going to figure out a way to make a living being me. And they were like, well, what does that mean? I was like maybe, and I didn't know I was going to give keynote speeches and I didn't really know about this. I knew I wanted to write books because I'd written, when you say writing out loud.
Yeah, it's hard.
Well, you know what I would do? I would write it out. I would type it into core links.
Smart.
Into the draft.
Yeah.
And that way I could print it. We could edit it, print it, edit it, print it. And now you could only do so many words. And then I would put like chapter 1A because each chapter was like 5. You could only fill it up so much, only so many characters. So I'd get like chapter 1A, B, C, D. And then I'd email it to someone who would take it and put it into Word. And then they'd mail it back and we could go over it again, make sure it was okay. And so I'm building a book. And then
that's smart.
Yeah, expensive.
Yeah, expensive. Right.
But so I just remember thinking I was going to figure out some way to just not run from this the rest of my life. But which made it harder on me, of course. But that's what I'm wondering is like, you're not stupid. You had to know, like you didn't realize that the deck is just stacked against you.
I did not realize it. I just had convinced myself that enough people out there knew the truth of my case and my situation that I could step back into my life again. And from the outset, I was home a day, and Vice News came to the house, and we did this long interview, and then BBC asked me to do an interview. I was on this BBC crosstalk. It's like their version of 60 Minutes. And the guy's like, well, you don't seem sorry at all for your crime. You're not contrite. You haven't said that you regret doing it. I said, no. Yeah. I don't regret doing it. I would do it again tomorrow if I had the opportunity. I said, if you're looking for me to apologize, that's just not going to happen. So
who was harmed?
Exactly.
What am I sorry for again?
Yeah. So I got a job at a think tank, the oldest liberal think tank in Washington, the Institute for Policy Studies. And they said, you're going to have to raise your own salary. We don't have any money to pay you. So I had this constant GoFundMe, and I'm barely making like 18 grand a year. I said, there's got to be more than this. In the meantime, I got a call from the Sputnik news agency, the Russian news agency. Would you like to have your own radio show? I said, no, I don't want to work for the Russians. Thank you, though. But I couldn't find a job. I got turned down by Uber. They were like, we don't hire felons. I got turned down by the one where you do grocery shopping for people. We don't hire felons. So the Russians called me again, like 8 months later. we'd really like to offer you your own radio show.
What year is this, by the way?
This was 2017.
Okay.
So I said, well, I'm happy to come in for a conversation.
I said, what does it matter? It's your radio show. It's not like it's...
And I said that to them. I said, I want the freedom to say anything I want, to criticize anybody I want, including Vladimir Putin. They said, done. I said, put that in the contract? Done. And they did. And so I had a radio show for 7 years, which led to my own TV show, which led to a podcast, which led to, speaking engagements. And one thing led to the other. And it's taken me a little while, but now I'm, famous. I'm still talking about these human rights issues. My detractors are all either dead or retired or in a couple of cases under indictment. God bless Donald Trump for that. I can say that. And I came out on top.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, so it took a few years, but I mean, everything takes 2 or 3 years. You know what I'm saying?
Everything does.
It's
what is
everything. I think it's I actually like the Jeff Bezos where he says I think it's Jeff Bezos. Most overnight successes take 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said that yesterday. I said I'm an overnight success, and it only took me 18 years to get there.
So I wrote 5 books when I was locked up.
You wrote 5 books like that?
I had Well, 13 years. Well, what I got to do?
Oh my God!
And listen, I was ordering so many Freedom of Information Acts.
Oh my God! I did the same thing.
And they would come in, and so it was SIS would call me in. So SIS is calling me in saying, "You got a Freedom of Information Act from John Boziak. He's an inmate here." I'm like, "Yeah. Oh, I need that." And he's like, "This is his legal paperwork, and this is everything on him." I'm
Freedom of information,
right? And I go, "I'm writing a book on him." But once I got a couple guys in Rolling Stone magazine, and I got a book deal, then the SIS would be walking by me, and he'd go, "Hey Cox, come by SIS. We got a bunch of stuff for you." Because sometimes they wouldn't get it. Sometimes they come right to me. Sometimes the mailroom would find it and they give it to them. They go, "Hey, what is this, a book?" And I go, "Yeah." They go, "What's the book about?" And I go, "Okay, so listen what happened." And I tell them, "But this guy, boom, 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 boom." They'd be like, "That sounds like a good story, bro." And they give me this. So it got.
Oh, that's very cool.
Right. So, but I wrote all these books while I was there, and knew I wanted to do a podcast. So I got out. I was in the real quick. So I was in the halfway house, and a buddy of mine was like, "There's a guy that runs a podcast around where I live," and I was like, "Okay." And I was working for him. He's a childhood friend. Hired me at the gym he was owned, and he's like, you should go talk to him. He interviews this guy, which was Ben Mala. He's like, he interviews him. He's a real estate guy. He might want to talk to you. And I go, I just got out of fucking prison for bank fraud, for real estate related bank fraud. I go, he didn't want to talk to me. He's like, well, you said you want to start a podcast. Maybe you could talk to him. He goes, I can get you his email. So he gets me the email. I sent him an email. He called me back in like 20 minutes.
Wow.
And I said, hey, what's up? And I said, I appreciate you calling. He said, bro, that may be very well be the best email I've ever read in my life. I go, really? He goes, I get a lot of emails. I said, why? He said, just the opening. And the opening was, my name is Matthew Cox, and I'm a con man. I was recently released from federal prison. No, and I said I was in federal prison for bank fraud and bank fraud related charges. I said I'm 100% guilty of them all.
Oh my God.
And then I said I was recently released. I'd love to talk to you about my story. So and he was like, bro, that opening. He goes, no,
that's very powerful.
It was great. So he called me, and so he gets me to come on the program, on the podcast. I kept putting it off because I didn't even understand how YouTube worked.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure.
I made the mistake of buying an Android. It keeps fucking freezing up on me. Like, I don't know how to work it.
Right.
So, but eventually I get out of the halfway house, and he asked me to come on, and I come on, and I tell the story. It takes about 2 hours. And I remember after the story, I'm driving this piece of shit vehicle, and I'm like, listen, man. I'm like, I said, I don't even know how I'll make it across the bridge. You got to buy me lunch. I may be walking across the bridge. Like, I have no money. And this vehicle is a piece of garbage. So we go to Waffle House, and we're eating. He goes, listen. He said, you want to start a podcast? And I'm like, right. He goes, listen. He said, I can't tell whether this story is going to be great. He's about, the story you just told me is amazing. He said, and I think it's going to be big. He said, I think it's going to do really well. He said, you need to start a podcast now. And I was like, how? And I go, I don't have any equipment. I don't have anything. He's like, oh, you got a phone? I was like, a phone? And I had an iPhone by then. And he goes, yeah, it's an iPhone. It's got a good camera. I'm not starting a fucking podcast with an iPhone. Like, And here's what always cracks me up. I'm living in a rooming house. And I'm telling the guy who's making a living doing what I want to do, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, how fucking arrogant of a prick are you?
Right.
And so I always say, he told me, he said, put it up, just start putting out videos on your fucking channel. That way if this blows up, you'll get a ton of subscribers and then you can buy better equipment. He gave me, I would say, the best piece of advice that I 100% ignored. And we would have 2 million fucking subs right now.
Yeah.
If I had listened to him. I didn't listen to him for another 6 months. I went on like 5 or 6 more podcasts. All of them, that podcast, by the way, got like 2.3 million. The next one's 2 million. Next one 2.8 million. Next one's didn't have anywhere to go. I had a couple thousand subscribers on my YouTube account, not one video. These guys don't even know if it's me. I don't even have a photo. It just says Matt Cox.
Oh my God.
And they're just subscribing. And so Danny, one day he saw it. He said, "The fuck are you doing? What are you fucking doing?"
Yeah. He's hit the sweet spot.
And look, and here's the thing about what I admire about Danny is that, listen, he did it for nothing for years, just because he loves it.
He's quite good at it.
No, he's good at it too. You can be good.
He loves it.
You can be amazing. You can be amazingly talented at something and still fail.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, it happens every day.
Right. But I think that what I love about it is that he did it. He did it, and he wasn't making money. He did it simply because he loved doing it, and that's pretty impressive. And that's inspiring that paid off.
He was the first big podcast that I went on. I'm going to say it was 2019, just before COVID started. And I've been on, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, I guess, over the years. But then that led to Julian Dory, and then to Tucker Carlson and Patrick Bet-David and Sean Ryan and Rogan finally last year, and then Diary of a CEO, which really broke me out. So one led to the other, to the other, to the other, and it's all worked out.
It's funny, Bustamante. So Bustamante, I had written a book, and I needed to kind of fluff it up, right? So I knew a guy that said he knew some former CIA guys, and I said, "Do you know one that would talk to me?" He was like, "Oh, I got this one guy. He just started a podcast, which was his podcast." Oh, okay. So I said, "Yeah, I'd love to talk to him." I said, "Could I send you some questions that you can read, some paragraphs or pages you could read, and then you could comment on them?" He could show, "Yeah, sure." So I sent him to him. It was a book about a guy that was locked up, but it's kind of an international thing, and it's all true. These are true stories, true crime. So he wrote the whole thing, and we talked on the phone several times. We emailed a bunch, and then I was like, "Hey, look, I know a guy who owns a podcast," and Bustamante lived close. And I said, I could probably get you on the podcast. He goes, "Oh my God, that would be great. That would be so, wow, thank you so much. That would be amazing." He's like, "I just started my podcast. Like, it's not doing, he's like, it's doing okay, And he's like, "Yeah, I would love that. I really need some exposure." He hadn't been on anything.
Wow.
And so I called Danny. I said, "Danny, I got this guy. He's former CIA. He just helped me with this book. And he let me interview him, and I interview a few people. And he was like, "Okay, yeah, no doubt." I said, "Right down the street. Here's his number." He goes, "Oh, yeah. I said, "You should have him on, Okay. Fucking 2 weeks later, Bustamante texted me and says, "Hey man, your guy never called me." And I was like, "Really?" Okay, I called Danny. He's like, "Okay, well, who is it again?" The guy's his name's Andrew Bustamante. He's right down the street from you. Okay. 2 weeks later, Andrew goes, same thing. Wow. Same thing. "Hey man, I haven't heard from this guy." I call him Danny up. Same thing. He's like, "Okay, do you even know that this guy was in the CIA?" I said, "Look, he was in the fucking CIA. Who's gonna fucking lie about that? Come on, he's in the CIA."
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, I probably would be. But and he goes, okay, and he says, yeah. And then like a week later, 2 weeks later, Danny said, "Listen, man," he said, "I had 2 guests fall off. I have nothing. I need you to come and do a podcast. Can you come tomorrow and do a podcast?" And I go, "What about Bustamante?" He goes, "Who?" I go, "Motherfucker." I said, he's fucking 15 minutes from you. What are you? I know it's probably an hour, but what are you? He's like, "Who?" I go, "Fuck, at least call the fucking guy." "No, I'll call him." So he calls him. Bustamante goes on, and I mean has blown up ever since then. Blown up. I mean, just that.
He's on like 3 different TV shows.
Oh, it's insane, and never says anything.
No.
I mean,
he takes a lot of shit. He and I debated each other.
I know. I thought that was great.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, Alan Dershowitz called me the next day.
Oh, that's funny.
And he said, "You gave that kid a master class in the Constitution." I said, "I don't understand Bustamante. He's like an apologist for the CIA."
Yeah, they've never done anything wrong.
No, never.
They've never done anything wrong.
Never.
It's the part, and that's why it's funny because like Julian and Danny said they'll be like, I think he's still CIA. I think it's a psyop. I think he's out there.
Stranger things have happened. I'll tell you another story too. You know what? To be on the safe side, maybe I should.
You don't have another 30 months in you?
I'll tell you a different one. The first thing that CIA people ask each other when they meet up for the first time is, what directorate were you in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there are 4 answers. DO, DI, DS&T, DA. Directorate of Operations, Directorate of Intelligence, Directorate of Science and Technology, Directorate of Administration. Okay, that's it. Four answers.
Mm-hmm.
The inevitable second question is, what division were you in? And there are about 3 dozen. It could be Near East operations, Africa operations, counterterrorism, counterproliferation, whatever. So I'm a regular on Fox News. And Tucker Carlson and I became good friends well before COVID. Around 2015, I started going on his show regularly on Fox. I'm always the only person there because most people are either in the New York studio or they're remote. So I'm always the only one in the green room and then the only one in the studio. And he was doing the show from Washington. So I go in the green room one day and there's this guy there. Looks to be about 5 years older than I am. And I said, "Hello." He says, "Hey, how are you?" I sit down. He said, You're gonna go on Tucker?" I said, "Yeah, I'm on at 8:20. He said, "Oh, I'm on at 8:35. And he says, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Oh, CIA stuff." And he said, "Oh, you're CIA?" And I said, "Yeah, former CIA. You?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm former CIA too." And I said, "What directorate were you in?" And he said, "I was in ops." Okay. That's not the way we would normally say it. You'd say I was in the DO.
Right.
But maybe he was a contractor, I thought. Maybe he was in just for a year and he just didn't pick up on the lingo. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I said, "What division were you in?" And he says, "I did black ops, I did wet work, I did all that shit."
And like nobody's going to say all that. This is not right.
Not even in friggin' Hollywood
Right.
would somebody say something so stupid and ill-informed. Black ops and wet work and all that shit. Okay. So I go into the studio. We're on commercial. And I said, "Tucker, I got to tell you, this guy that's in the green room that's coming on after me, I think he's a fake." And he said, "Oh, shit. Are you kidding me?" He said, "Why?" I said, "He doesn't know the lingo. And when I ask him the most basic questions, he just doesn't know the answers." And he goes, "Okay, well, I'm committed. He's on in 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
6 months later, I see this guy on the front page of the Washington Post. He's been arrested and charged with mortgage fraud. So he bought a house in Annapolis, Maryland, which is very nice and very expensive. And they said, "Okay, you're applying for this mortgage. We need 6 months of bank statements." He's like, "No can do. Deep cover, CIA, wet work, black ops, top secret." And they're like, "Oh, okay. We'll just give you the $1 million."
Yeah, come on.
So they give him the $1 million, and he can't make any of the payments because he's never worked for the CIA or CIA adjacent or anything. He just made the whole thing up. And so they have to foreclose on the house, and then they grab him and charge him with mortgage fraud. Like, how do people, especially people in the Washington area, fall for something like that? When I left the agency, I went to work for Deloitte & Touche. I was the deputy director of the competitive intelligence practice. Very boring, but the same skills that I learned at the agency. So we're spying on Ernst & Young, KPMG, IBM, stealing their pricing models and stuff like that. So because we're based in McLean, Virginia, and the CIA's in McLean, Virginia, we get like dozens, hundreds even of applicants who claim CIA employment. So the managing partner called me one day and said, you would do me a great favor if you would just take every one of these applicants who claim CIA background to dinner and vet them for me. I said, sure. So the very first one, he's this young kid in his late 20s, and I take him to dinner and I said, so what directorate were you in? And he goes, I was DI and DO. And I said, wrong answer. And he goes, well, I said, what directorate were you really in? And he said, well, I'm an analyst. I'm in the DI. I said, then why would you say you're in the DO? Well, I do some work for the DO. I said, we all did work for the DO, but you can't say that you're in the DO. And I said, what division were you in? He said, CTC. I was running Middle Eastern operations. And I said, really? Now that's fascinating because I was in CTC and I was running Middle Eastern operations and I never heard of you. And he goes, I'm not going to get this job, am I? And I said, no. I don't even think we ordered.
Yeah, this is an uncomfortable dinner at this point.
Yeah. He just fell apart. But we would get people like this all the time. All the time. You know, in the military, it's stolen valor.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing, but so many people are undercover that it's that much harder to prove that they weren't in the agency. For me, it's always about the lingo. You either know it or you don't. And so help me God, if anybody ever says to me, I was in the company.
Yeah.
You're going to get a punch in the face because nobody ever says the company under any circumstances.
So I have a prison story that's similar. Colby's heard this, so you'll appreciate this. First of all, it bothers me that when the Chos come in and they're asked what they're there for, obviously they don't say I'm a Cho.
No.
What they say is, they always say fraud. Like, for God's sakes, why do you have to pick my industry?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, come on. Like,
exactly.
And so
paperwork, please.
Yeah. So these guys would come in and, you know, of course, initially they don't have paperwork. You know, they come in, so they're there, they get assigned a cube.
Right.
Did you have cubes at the low?
Yeah, we had cubes.
Yeah, they weren't cells with doors and everything.
No.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it depended on which unit you were in. Mine was in Central 1. It was the only one that was new. It wasn't original to the prison. So we had cubes.
Right.
Others had cells.
Okay. Yeah, like Coleman was all built at the same time. So they were all cube. Like the low.
See, ours was a Catholic
cubes.
monastery.
Oh, really?
And they just put heavy steel prison doors on.
Jeesh.
Yeah.
So guys would come in, they'd get their assigned cube, and then if it's a white guy, which almost all the Chos are white. I'm sorry to say that, but it's just true.
It's true.
And so the white guy was named Kenny King. Kenny King would walk over to the guy and say, "What you hey, so what are you here for?" And they of course the guy say, "Oh, I'm here for fraud." And he go, "Oh, okay." And then they go over to me and he go, Cox, and I go, "Yeah, what's up?" And he go, "This guy says he's here for fraud. Go talk to him." And I go, "God, I don't want to go fucking talk to him."
You got to vet the fraud.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, man. I'm sure he's here for fraud. He's a little soft white guy. I'm sure. No, go talk to him. He don't look right to me. He don't look right. He don't. And I go, fuck.
The big Chomo glasses.
Yeah, of course, the Cho 2000s. Right. And so I'd walk over and I go, "Hey, man, you're here." And this is one specific guy because it just always kills me. So Kenny walks with me. He's right up here with me. And he goes, "Hey," he said, I said, "So I hear you're here for fraud." He's like, yeah, I'm here for fraud. I went, "Oh, okay." I said, "Me too. I'm here for bank fraud." I said, "What kind of fraud were you here?" He goes, "Credit card fraud." And I went, "Credit card fraud?" I said, was that the charge? Credit card fraud? Yeah, it was credit card fraud. And there's no
such charge.
Thing as charge.
No,
credit card
it could
fraud.
be wire fraud.
Yeah, well, it could be wire fraud. It could be access device fraud.
Sure.
It could be bank fraud. It could be financial institution fraud. Like, there's lots of it, but there's no credit card fraud. So I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so already I'm thinking, And I go, "Well, what were you doing?" He's like, "Well, I was charging lots of people a small amounts on their credit cards, and then I was getting paid. That's how I was making my money." And I went, "Well, I understand. Did you work for a financial institution? Like, how'd you have access to people's credit cards to charge them? Like, I don't understand how." He's like, well, I said, did you work at a bank? Did you, well, he goes, it's not a learning experience. I'm not going to go over the whole thing. And I went,
oh, wrong answer.
And I know, I looked at my, oh, okay. I go, he's a cho. And Kenny goes, bingo, I fucking knew it. And I turned around, I just walked off. And Kenny came up to me he and a couple of guys came up to me a little bit later and they go, how did you know he was a cho that fast? I said, listen,
in your gut.
I said, first of all, I said, the charge is wrong. I said, which, okay, that's fine. I get it. I said, like, I'll tell people I'm here for, what are you here for? Oh, mortgage fraud. I said, it's really bank fraud. There's no mortgage fraud. It's bank fraud. But I said, whatever. I said, and then when I asked him was a charge, he said, no, that is the charge. I was like, okay, that's not true. I said, but then the second thing when I asked him what he was doing, he didn't know the lingo. Mm-hmm. I said, and thirdly, I said, he shut it down right away. I said, Kenny, I said, I've never met a fraudster
that didn't want to talk about it.
Didn't want to brag.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know if, and Kenny, we'd been locked up 4 or 5 years at this point. I said, Kenny, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but if you asked me to describe what I did, I said, you can't shut me up. I said, I get excited about it. It's thrilling to me. I love it. I get energized. I said, I don't get energized about anything else. I said, but it's in my bones. I love it. I said, it's the narcissism of being a fraudster that you have to brag. I said, which is also how most of these guys get caught. I said, he shut it down. He didn't want to talk about it. I said, come on, man, this guy's a cho. He's a cho. And listen, I mean, there's a bunch of other ones where he'd be like,
sure.
same thing over it, but it's the same thing. Like what is a fisherman knows a fisherman, right?
Exactly right. So I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff right now.
Right.
I've got 3 podcasts. One to my great surprise, it's on Apple Podcasts. It's called John Kiriakou's Dead Drop. We're actually number 98 in the world, among 2 million podcasts, and it's just me telling stories. I've got one every day on YouTube and Rumble called Deprogram. It's just about the news of the day. And then I have another one on YouTube called Deep Focus, where it's more in-depth interviews with people like professors and attorneys and activists and, experts on different issues. I've got a website, johnkiriakou.com. And if you want something more fun, I'm on Cameo, John Kiriakou. Can barely keep up with it. I got my 8th book coming out in a couple of weeks, my 9th book by the end of the year. I decided to do something completely different, but everything's available on Amazon. My first 7 books were about the CIA, and I decided to do one called Remains of the Day, a definitive guide to Washington, D.C.'s historic cemeteries. And the publisher liked it so much, they commissioned 4 more. So I've got one called... well, I forget what it's called now. I don't pick the titles. They pick the titles. But anyway, it is it's a definitive guide to the mafia graves of New York City. And then I've got one coming out on Chicago, one on the country western graves of Nashville, and one on America's serial killers.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this. Also, we're going to leave all of John's links in the description box. So you can go there, click on them, follow him, and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching the show. And if you know anybody who'd be interested, please share it, subscribe. Thank you. See ya.